Do you want to know how to teach teens financial responsibility? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, child development, and education, all through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're talking about teaching finances to teens. In this video, we're going to be talking about why financial responsibility is a self-government skill. We're going to talk about some key skills that you can teach your child so that financial responsibility is more of a possibility, and things you can do as an entire family group to help motivate your children to learn more financial responsibility. Self-government is a principle of freedom. The majority of free societies usually adopt the principle of self-government as one of their foundational principles. Even if they don't mention the term itself, they usually want to live in a way where they are independent from other people taking over. That's what self-government means. So from a government standpoint, it would mean that international government or governments from other nations don't get to dictate what your nation does. That's having self-government, solving your own problems, empowering your own people. But self-government is more than that. In fact, it's a personal principle that leads to adult skill development that helps a person become healthy, confident, secure problem solver. What is self-government? The definition of self-government is being able to determine the cause and effect of any given situation and possessing a knowledge of your own behaviors so that you can control them. So what that means is that you analyze your behavior about a specific thing and you analyze how that behavior is helping you to progress. Is it taking you to where you hoped it would, or do you need to stop and adjust, maybe correct that behavior so that you get better results? When a person is self-governed, they are completely honest, they prioritize, they have a sense of duty when they are working toward a particular goal. So how does that relate to finances? Well, I hope you can see that easily, but just to make it a little bit more clear, when a person has financial responsibility, they are self-governing. The whole idea of responsibility or taking personal responsibility for your decisions or your financial behaviors is the same as being self-governed with any behavior. So when you are a self-governed person, just basic self-government with any behavior, that means that you can give yourself instructions and you can follow through with them. You can give yourself no answers or criticism about something that needs to change, and you can make those changes. You can correct yourself and accept correction from other people, and you can disagree appropriately with others as well. So financially, what would that look like? When a person is self-governed financially, that would mean that they would be able to prioritize their finances and make financial goals for themselves and actually take steps toward those financial goals so that they could be successful. They would give themselves instructions about how to spend their money, how to save their money, how to prioritize their money, and they would follow through. Of course, this would also include telling themselves when they cannot spend money, if they're going to live according to a budget, and what would be worth spending their money on. So prioritizing makes it so that you have to give yourself instructions and no answers and accept those no answers. Now, if you misuse your money, then you might have to self-correct and accept that you made the wrong decision. This would show humility and help get you back on the right track again. When you are self-governed and you're working with others related to money, you might have to discuss and negotiate the way that money's being used. This would require using the skill disagreeing appropriately. So those 4 basic skills of self-government, while they are useful for all behaviors, in fact, because those skills can be used broadly in any circumstance, shows you that they are actually principles of freedom and not simply skills of good behavior. When we live according to principles, we actually feel more free and we take more personal responsibility. So what are some key things that you can do to help your children, specifically your teen, learn to have self-government over their money or to take personal responsibility over their finances? A key thing would be to start as early as possible. I mean, you don't have to start super early, but earlier the better. Start by teaching your children those 4 basic skills of self-government, and teach them that it's healthy to course correct regularly so they don't think that they have to be perfect. Help them to analyze their goals and their finances. Help them to make good decisions early on as they're trying to decide where to allocate their money. Sometimes parents make the mistake of just giving children money and then allowing the children to use the money however they want to. Although this sounds like a way to teach financial responsibility, it's a method that promotes entitlement. When a child does not get the opportunity to work for the money that they are spending, they don't actually understand the value of it. Now, I don't pay my children to do chores at my house like a lot of people do because they live at my house. And I don't think it's good training to tell a person that where they live, they should get paid to do extra work and upkeep at the place that they live. So we all work together as a family, but I did provide opportunities for my children to apply for a job. I had a list of chores that needed to be done in the home that were outside of our regular work, and they had dollar amounts attached to them. They could come apply for the job, tell me when they were going to do it, how long it was going to take, and how they would be accountable for getting that job done. And then I would hire them for the job for a certain period of time. They had to follow through on their word, then they could get paid. Now, when we would have our self-government meetings with our children, so we have 3 different meetings in the self-government system. We have couples meetings, family meetings, and then individual mentor meetings with the children. During the individual mentor meetings with the children, we would often talk to them about their goals, especially as those goals related to financial things. So if they needed to save money for a certain thing, or if they wanted to earn more money, we would talk to them about how they could do that and help them make plans for that so that they could achieve their goals and find themselves successful. Multiple times we started little businesses with our children. Sometimes the businesses were an utter failure. Sometimes they were very successful. And these were all because those meetings, those mentor meetings that we had weekly, one-on-one with the children, would lead us to help them make plans in a way that they felt like could make money. One thing that my parents did for our family that I also do for my children is as soon as they turn 12, they're actually in charge of buying a lot of their gifts for friends and Christmas gifts, souvenirs, but also their clothes and shoes. So this means that come Christmas time or birthdays, they're going to be asking for clothes and shoes, and they will be appreciating those things a lot more because they know they don't have to buy them with their own money. My father also taught me that when you're young, it's a good idea to try to save half of everything that you earn. This was a fantastic thing to teach my children. I remember that we read The Richest Man in Babylon, and we discussed how in The Richest Man in Babylon, he saved a good percentage of his money and how he allocated it. We believe in tithing in our family, so they give some to God, they save some for themselves, they save some for future, and then some for immediate. And then they use some of that money for recreation, but mostly they try to save that money for things that they might need in the future. If they can start to see money growing in the bank account, it feels good to them. Sure, let's use a little bit of it, but not so much that we don't get that opportunity to see it grow. By giving the child the responsibility that they have to buy some things for themselves that they will actually need, that teaches them also to be very careful about how they choose to spend their money. So teaching children about delayed gratification is another key principle that you can teach them as you're training your children to learn how to budget. When an adult goes to work and earns money, they might have to wait a week or a few weeks or maybe a whole month or more in order to get the paycheck. That's delayed gratification. When they get that money because they know they're not going to be getting another one very soon, then they choose to be very careful with the money that they received. This is something to teach the children as well. So if you have a certain maybe payday as a family, if they're going to be doing chores and earning money, or make sure that you don't give the child a loan ahead of time and then have them work to pay it back. That would actually be teaching them, again, more entitlement instead of having that hard work, delayed gratification that they need to be focusing on to really learn to budget their finances. One other thing that we did as a family is we would work together as a group. Those would be times that we would work in service for other people, but we would also work for ourselves as a family, and those would be things that we didn't get paid for. But then when we had family meetings, we would also plan for other opportunities to work as a group, maybe to make some money or work toward a specific trip that we wanted to go on or an activity that we wanted to have as a family. I remember one time collecting cans as a family because my son wanted to collect the aluminum cans. He had this great idea that he was going to earn so much money. Of course, we collected, and the money was not as much as we thought, but at least we still had a fun family activity afterward, and that let them know that it takes a lot of hard work to earn a little bit of money. And it was more fun to do it together as a family. It helped instill that we are a family that knows how to work and enjoys working together. A work culture, a culture where you learn to financially budget your money and take personal responsibility for your finances, is a deliberate culture. You have to plan ahead of time to have this culture. If you don't take the time to do that teaching, your children won't appreciate money. So decide today, what are key things in your child's regular life that they can take responsibility for, and how can you help them come up with ideas to earn money with your family culture? I could go into a lot more detail about the principles and skills of self-government, like following instructions, accepting no answers, and such. Those are important skills for learning how to financially budget your money. But there's a better video that will teach you more details about those skills, and I recommend you watching that video next. The video is called The Not So Known Secret for Parenting Success. Click on the link to that video next. I'll see you there.